questions using the Q&A function. You should have a button at the bottom of your screen that says Q&A. Your questions will be visible to other participants in the workshop. And if you see a question that's really that's similar to one that you've got, what we'd like to do is have you use the upvote function with that question, and that puts it to the top of our queue. That said, we will make every effort to answer every question that is submitted tonight, even if we go over time. With that, I would like to introduce our two speakers. Leslie Bannigan and Renee Johnson have over 25 years combined experience in helping people with septic systems to keep them running smoothly, saving those people money, and helping keep our water clean. And Leslie and Renee are both really passionate about working with people to find solutions and sharing their knowledge. With that, I will turn it over to Leslie and Renee.
Did you know that you can get more life out of your septic system by inspecting the tank every 3 years and pumping when needed? Hi folks, I'm Leslie Bannigan.
And I'm Renee Johnson.
We're environmental health specialists with Kitsap Public Health, where we find and fix fecal pollution sources so they don't make people sick. We also help people get the most life possible from their septic system investments. And we're here tonight to help you get pumped for septic tank pumping.
Close your eyes and imagine you're hosting a backyard barbecue. Everyone is having a great time, and the kitchen and bathroom are getting plenty of use. Then you smell a lingering odor, and it's not the delicious smell of meat searing on the barbecue. You decide to sniff out the source. And what do you find? Sewage bubbling up from your septic tank. Over the next hour, we'll share some tips to help prevent this from happening to you.
We want you to get the most life out of your septic system because it's a big investment. When we meet with people, we've noticed some common barriers or reasons why maintenance is postponed. Let's take a poll of this group to see which of these apply to you. In just a couple of minutes, we can see the combined results of the entire group. And don't worry, it's anonymous. And there we have our results. We struggle with these barriers too, and we want to help you overcome them by sharing some simple tips and real life stories so you can get the most life possible from your septic system. The important things are to know how it works, know how to maintain it, avoid water overload, avoid strong waste, and prevent physical damage. Let's start with how a septic system works. Here is a standard gravity system. The basics are the same, even if you have a more complicated alternative septic system. You can see how all the house wastewater flows through a septic tank where solids settle, allowing just the clear wastewater to go through to the drainfield soils. This is a side view of a one-compartment septic tank. Sewage flows into the tank through the inlet baffle, a pipe that turns the water 90 degrees, so the scum layer floats to the top and the sludge settles to the bottom. Baffles keep the stronger scum and sludge solids in the tank so they don't plug drainfield soils. Only the clearer wastewater in the middle of the tank, called effluent, flows to the drainfield. Bacteria in your digested food waste helps break down the solids in the tank. So if you want to do something nice for your septic system, eat a delicious meal and use the bathroom. The microbes from your body do all the work, so don't waste your money on septic system additives. Reduce the use of strong chemicals and cleaning products because they can kill those good microbes in your tank and drain field. It's very important to inspect your tank every 3 years and pump when about 1/3 full of scum and sludge. More complicated alternative systems require inspection at least every year. Here is a typical 2-compartment septic tank. The second compartment provides another layer of protection for your drain field because the scum and sludge solids settle out more. Protect your septic system and prevent your drain field from early clogging by inspecting your tank and baffles every 3 years and pumping tanks when about 1/3 full of scum and sludge. A filter is sometimes added in the outlet baffle of the septic tank. These need regular maintenance to prevent sewage overflows in your home or yard. Please reach out to me or Renee if you have any questions about how to safely clean an effluent filter. You can see the green watertight risers on the tank lid. These give easy access, so you don't have to dig up your tank every time it needs service. It's very important to secure your tank lids to prevent the tragedy of kids and pets falling in. Here's a close-up picture looking down at the center wall inside a 2-compartment septic tank. You can see the white baffle that straddles the 2 compartments. The wastewater effluent leaves the tank, flowing through a watertight pipe into a distribution box. You can see the 2-inch wastewater inlet pipe into the D box. 4 larger pipes flow to the drain field legs. Inside those pipes, you can see the round black levelers that adjust to help effluent flow equally to the drain field legs. Sometimes distribution boxes deteriorate or fill with sludge or roots. Protect your D box from plant and tree roots. Here's a video of wastewater flowing into a distribution box from a septic tank. We've shown you how wastewater is collected and transported through a septic tank and distribution box. Now let's talk about wastewater treatment. Soil can do an amazing job of filtering and treating wastewater. Soil microbes gobble up waste particles as the wastewater effluent wicks through unsaturated soil. Septic systems are carefully designed and drain fields are located to make sure there's enough soil to treat the waste. Most of us in Washington rely on groundwater for drinking water. That's why we need to make sure wastewater is treated by the septic system soils so the bugs in sewage don't make us sick. When you pump water from a well, it develops a cone of depression as it draws in groundwater from around it. That's why it's so important to have your septic set back from wells and to keep your septic system working well. Here is a gravel and perforated pipe drain field. Perforated pipe has holes in it to allow wastewater effluent to move into the gravel and soils. This is a rare look inside a gravelless drain field. These chambers are used when clean gravel is hard to find or on sites with difficult access. This photo shows a distribution box and transport lines for a gravity drain field. Wastewater effluent is distributed equally to each drain field leg. The observation ports allow you to see inside the drain field from above the ground to find out if the system is working the way it was designed. Gravity drain fields with serial distributions like this one are typically used on slopes. Sewage completely fills the top leg of the drain field first, and only when the top leg is full does it step down or overflow into the next leg. You need to manage trees and shrubs near the step downs to prevent damage. Pressure distribution systems divide the wastewater effluent into 6 or more doses a day. The doses are pumped to the drain field through pressurized drain field lines that distribute the wastewater dose throughout the whole drain field. This more complicated alternative design is used where the soil isn't deep enough to treat the effluent through gravity distribution. Pressure distribution systems require annual maintenance because they can easily become clogged without it. Now that you know how a septic system works, let's look at some septic system failures. This one has the typical foul-smelling, slimy, blackish gray water surfacing in the drain field. This one also has standing water and soggy soils in the drain field area. Some other things to look for are wet spots during dry weather, gray water, laundry or sink water that's discharging to the ground or surface waters, or gurgling sounds, slow drainage, or backups in plumbing that's caused by a slow drain field. This tank is a hazard because it's open to the ground surface where people and pets can fall in and flies can transport waste out. See the stained area on the green septic tank riser and signs of moisture on the otherwise dry ground? These are signs of a septic tank overflow that has partially dried. Here we confirmed that sewage was leaking into the lake by flushing red dye in the house toilet and finding it coming out in the lake. We found high bacteria counts at this bulkhead drain, and dye testing the house confirmed that it was sewage leaking out onto the beach. Now that you know how a septic system works and what a failure looks like, here's how to find the records for your system. Permit and maintenance records have important information about where your system parts are located and your water budget, or how much water the system was designed to treat every day. Go to www.kitsappublichealth.org. Find the wells and septic section at the bottom of the page, and you can search for your property records, application and permit status, and septic maintenance records. The sewage permit is your guide to the size and location of your system. This one is sized for 3 bedrooms at 360 gallons per day. The as-built drawing shows the approximate location and size of the septic system. This one shows the house, septic tank, distribution box, and 3 60-foot drain field legs. Here's the building site application. This is the septic system plan, and it's based on your water budget, soil type and depth, and required setbacks. The building site application includes a plot plan showing the proposed layout of the system. Modern building site applications dedicate a reserve area for septic system replacement when needed. If you have trouble finding your records or your water budget, please reach out to me or Renee. Next, we're going to share a few stories to highlight the importance of regular maintenance and some simple fixes to get a system back in order. Leaky toilets can fail septic systems. My family had a basement toilet that we didn't use, and one day my husband used it and forgot to jiggle the handle. We were lucky that our pump tank alarm let us know about the water leak before sewage came up in the backyard.
One of the services Leslie and I offer are personalized site visits, where we bring your septic system records and give site-specific recommendations. Leslie and I visited this property with a history of tank overflows and gurgling in the plumbing. The roof gutter was draining directly to the septic tank and overwhelming it during heavy rains. Route your downspouts at least 10 feet away on the downhill side of your tanks and drain field, so your system can do the important job of treating your dirty water. Thick scum and sludge from delayed pumping can plug your system. The landlord of this house was proud he hadn't pumped the tank in 20 years. He didn't even pump the tank at his own home until it backed up inside and made a big mess. The tank was almost totally full of scum and sludge. That's living in the danger zone. You wouldn't wait for problems to change the oil in your car, and you shouldn't wait for problems to pump your septic tank. Reduce stress on your system and yourself by having your tank inspected every 3 years and pumped when it's 1/3 full of solids. Even with regular operation and maintenance, alternative systems can still get thick scum and sludge. My system recently had high scum and sludge in one compartment. The pumper didn't empty it during 2 prior visits because they didn't want to remove internal parts. During the next checkup, my operation and maintenance person saw it was still 80 to 90% full of solids. Yikes, that's not good. If you have an alternative system, check with the pumper to see if your maintenance person needs to be on hand during pumping. No matter what type of system you have, you can prevent excessive scum and sludge buildup. Always do scheduled maintenance, keep food scraps from going down the drain, and don't use garbage disposals. Be sure to spread out your laundry loads so the fibers from your clothes can settle out in the tank. And avoid using strong chemicals like bleach, ammonia, liquid drain openers, and harsh cleaners because they can slow or stop normal processes by killing the good microbes in your tank and drain field. The tool shown in this video is called a sludge judge, and it's measuring the sludge in my tank. Delayed maintenance can lead to surfacing sewage in your yard. We helped the owner of this system overcome her fear of unknown costs. She was worried, but led me to the wet spot in her yard. She put on her boots and gloves and slogged through the sewagey mess to find the outlet baffle access. She used a metal fence stake to pry off the cap and fish out the filter. The filter hadn't been cleaned in 7 years. A clean filter and septic pumping was all it took to get this system back on track. Prevention is key. Know your system components and keep track of maintenance to prevent problems. Regular pumping and inspections can help uncover other issues like problems caused by settling or physical damage. When the owner of this system had his tank pumped, the water level was too high. Sometimes this happens when components have settled or are damaged, and sometimes it happens when a drain field isn't taking water at the designed rate. He used his contractor experience and tools to find and fix the problem and was delighted to find a bent transport line instead of a drain field issue. Protect your system from damage caused by parking, driving, burning, or pasturing large animals because septic system components are often buried shallowly.
You can protect your septic system and save money by using fewer harsh cleaning products. Instead, you can use greener options like vinegar, baking soda, oxygenated cleaner, and Castile soap. Make your own green cleaning kit with the link that you'll find in our resource list. For safety, it's important not to reuse cleaning product bottles and to label all cleaning products that you make. To wrap up, you can protect your septic system investment by knowing how to maintain it, avoiding water overload, avoiding strong waste, and preventing physical damage.
Thank you, Leslie and Renee. I see we've got a couple of questions in the Q&A. We're going to wait until all of the presentations are done before we answer those. But if you had questions that came up, please do drop them into the Q&A for us. As a reminder, or excuse me, I already gave you the reminder. I would now like to introduce you to Paul Cushy. Paul has been a Master Gardener for 7 years. Paul is co-lead for the Master Gardener Answer Clinic, and his passion is helping people solve garden and plant problems. He's also president of the Kitsap County Dahlia Society. Take it away, Paul.
Thank you, Cami, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about planting over and around septic systems. There are 6 elements to your planning process. You need to know your system, where it's located, and if you don't, please check with Kitsap County Public Health. They have your records in full detail. Protect your components from damage. Roots cause more damage than a shovel that you might be wielding around a plant. Protect your soil from compaction. No driving, no animals, nothing on top of your drain fields. Choose your plants carefully. Consider plant size at maturity. Don't believe the nursery tags. That is only 3 to 5 years of growth that they're claiming. And then make sure you locate your large plants and trees away from your components. Never plant a tree or shrub with aggressive roots near your system or drain field lines. Let me repeat, never plant a tree or shrub with aggressive roots near your system or drain field lines. Aggressive roots can do damage like this to your tank and tank lines. This is a line we removed from a local drain field. Only choose shallow rooted plants. Always avoid woody plants. Strong woody roots grow off of woody plants. Trees, brush like willows and cedars have large root systems, and they can reach out into your area very quickly. Lawns are the best. I know, I hate mowing too, but lawns really are the best. They are a natural shallow root system. They drain well and are easy to replace if you have to do repair. There are lawn substitutes out there. There are a number of alternatives to lawns that you can consider. One of my favorites is an eco lawn. Nothing better than a field of little English daisies mixed in with your grass. It helps also to reduce your mowing frequency. Wildflowers are a common drain field planting. They're low maintenance, nice to look at, easy to reseed, or in a lot of cases will simply reseed themselves. Here's a picture of a shallow root, low maintenance perennial that's sitting around a small bird bath. Easy to do, easy to maintain. Hiding systems is a question we get frequently. It is always acceptable to be creative and hide your components. None of us like to see those tank and D boxes and inspection ports. So be creative. Even a simple decorative pot on a lid in the lawn can remove an eyesore. Creating a small garden around a lid is acceptable with the correct plants. Or, as this person has done, painting and creating mosaic on their lids to change their appearance. But don't hide them too well. You will need to find them in the future, I guarantee it. Don't cover with heavy or permanent objects. Don't cover with concrete, plastic sheeting, or weed cloth. Your drain field in particular is a living, breathing system that needs to be open to the environment. Maintain easy access to your system at all times. You don't want to have to tear up the garden any more than you have to. And remember you have to be pumping every 3 years. Kitsap has a hard surface requirement. You cannot have hard surface, concrete patios and things like that. You have to be 10 feet away from the tank. So no concrete patios over your tanks. You will regret it later if you have to replace. Now let me get to the one question that everybody always asks. Can't I plant a vegetable garden? I always get this question. Vegetable gardens should never be planted on top of a drain field. Remember again, this is a living, breathing ecosystem for processing your household effluent. Gardens need frequent watering. Overwatering watering will destroy your drain field. Rototilling and turning soil disrupts the surface. Regular access to your garden area creates compaction. Seasonal planting and replanting could potentially damage your components. But most of all, septic effluent contains human pathogens. not a good place to plant your veggies. And system failures could put raw sewage into the soil and into your garden. So plant a lawn, save yourself a lot of potential trouble in the future. So what can I plant? Okay, I've really just told you what you can't plant, except for grass. You can contact the Kitsap Master Gardeners through our local extension at this address. They can give you suggestions for perennials, plants, shrubs, and things that can be planted around your septic field. If you have any questions, that's your best source. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. So we're going to get to questions in just a moment, but hopefully you guys noticed that by attending, you qualified to be in a raffle for a green cleaning kit. So our winners tonight are Carla Kessler, Nancy Acosta, and Catherine Graham. So we will be in touch with the three of you to arrange a way for you to get your green cleaning kit. And it's got lots of great cleaning tools that will help keep your septic safe. With that, I'd like to invite all three of our speakers back on screen, and we'll go ahead and get into the questions that you guys have had. So again, it's not too late to submit a question if you've got one, and we're going to start at the top here. Our first question says, how much time should I wait between laundry loads?
I always recommend breaking up laundry loads. Think about how many fibers are coming out in your dryer. Well, you've got just as many coming out in your washer, but you don't have a filter for them. So those fibers take a long time to break down. If it's just cotton, that takes a long time. But fleece and polyester may never break down. So it's really a good idea. At home, I break my laundry up. I only do 2 loads maximum a day. I'll do 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon to give it time to settle out in the tank.
Okay. Next question is, do you have any tips on how to choose a quality septic company? And this is a twofer. Are there differences between a septic pumping company and a septic inspection company?
Yes. We've got a list on our website at kitsappublichealth.org. If you go into the septic section, septic system section, and you look up contractors, we've got a whole list of pumpers there. And what I typically like to do, I'm actually selecting a pumper right now myself, and I am looking at their websites. And some of them have way more informational websites than others. And I always recommend also that you be there when they come to do the inspection, because you can really glean a lot of good information.
And is there a difference between a pumping company and an inspection company?
Typically, no, but what you want to ask them is ask them to come inspect the tank and pump it if needed. And it's needed when the tank is about 1/3 full of scum and sludge solids.
And Leslie recommended a website. Paul had a website up too. I just want to let you guys all know that are out there listening. In about a day, you should receive a follow-up email that it'll include those links to the approved O&M operations and maintenance people, septic care manual, a link to the master gardeners, a link to green cleaning, lots of resources there. So watch your email for that. Next question. My system is newer and automated. It's being inspected every year. Kitsap County regulations. This may be more of a comment than a question. If you can offer us a little bit of clarification on what the question is there, we'd be happy to answer that. Next question is, how can we contact you to come and evaluate our system? I can answer that. That email will also have Leslie and Ray's email address, and you can drop them a line, and they would be happy to come and help you. Do you guys have anything more to add to that? No?
No, we're happy to come out and help you read your records or just guide you through to find them. However we can be of assistance. We really want to help you get the most life that you can out of your septic system.
The next question, what are the benefits / setbacks to having a pressure system?
Well, I love to answer that question because I think pressure systems are very interesting. What they do is they divide the wastewater dose up into 6 or more doses a day. And what that means is that it's only pumping about 30 to 40 gallons at a time up to your drain field. And it pressurizes the entire drain field bed at the same time. So nothing ever gets saturated. And that theoretically is the best way to treat wastewater. And that's why they're able to do it in shallower soils, because they pressurize it throughout the entire drain field area. And then they let it rest for a little bit of time. The downside to pressurized systems we learned after we started permitting them for a while, and that was that the holes in the drain field tend to plug up because you force the wastewater dose into it, and then it gets a rest for 3 or 4 hours, and it tends to develop slime in those holes. And that makes it so that you don't get the equal dose throughout the whole drain field, and we started seeing failures. So now we require annual maintenance. They come out and they look at the pressure on both ends of your drain field leg to make sure it's the same as it was when they designed it. And if it's not, they flush the system out so that you don't have that slime, and so you don't overload any particular part of the drain field.
Okay. Our next question, how close to the septic field boundary can trees be planted?
Well, I can deal with that one because my recommendation is no closer than 25 feet. And I would tell you, keep a 25-foot perimeter around your whole system and you'll be safe. And that's the best answer. Okay.
Another one for you, Paul. Is it okay to plant a vegetable garden over your reserve drain field area?
I was looking at this and my first question is, where's the reserve drain field? If it's off to the side and not at the bottom of your drain field, you're probably just fine. But if it's at the bottom or close to, you need to at least keep it at least 10 feet away. And I'm telling you, I wouldn't do it. So it's not my recommendation.
You do not want to lose or compact soil in your reserve area.
Right.
Because the reserve area is going to do the heavy lifting of replacing your septic system when it's needed. And we see people sometimes 30, 40 years down the road who are struggling to find a place to put it. And that's why we require it nowadays, because it just makes everything so much easier to know ahead of time where the suitable soils are. But if you do grow things in there, you may end up losing soil or compacting soil. And that might make it so that you have to have a more expensive system, a more expensive pre-treatment system to do some pre-treatment before it actually can go into the septic system. So it can actually do the job in shallower soils.
Yep.
Okay. The next person asks, could you talk about toilet paper types? This is a question that you guys get a lot, I think.
We do. And if you want to test your toilet paper, make your own little septic tank at home out of a jar with water inside. And so you think about toilet paper is made out of either wood or fibers that would plug up your drain field. So we want that toilet paper fibers to stay in the tank. We want it to either float to the top and be as part of the scum layer, or we want it to sink to the bottom and be part of the sludge layer. And we want it to hold together. So if you grab a jar out of your kitchen, put about a cup of water in there and grab 3 sheets of toilet paper and drop it in there and see what happens. If it turns into a slurry, then you know that's not good. If it fills up the entire jar, that's not good. Now that's good for sewer systems because they like to see that toilet paper break down. But for septic systems, we want to see it either floating to the top or sinking to the bottom and holding together. And that's how you can tell. Now you can also give it a little bit of a shake, not too much of a shake, but you're going to imitate the transport from the toilet to your tank. Just a little sideways shake and make sure that it is holding together.
Leslie, if you buy one brand of toilet paper and you test it, can you be assured that it will always be the same?
Unfortunately, no. But you do, if you have a brand name, there is somewhat of a quality control, but I do notice that sometimes some of the big box store brands are very different between times that you purchase them.
Leslie, okay. I just tested one that said septic safe on it. And and it worked just fine. So that was new to me that description was on toilet paper.
And that's great. Septic safe typically doesn't really have any meaning but marketing. And so watch that. You want to double check it, because septic safe and green and natural, all those things really don't have any meaning. And so you really need to test your own toilet paper and make sure that it's holding together so that it's not going to plug up your drain field.
Okay, our next question. How do I know if my septic system requires a 1 or 3 year inspection?
So this one is really a question of whether you have an alternative system or if you have a standard gravity system. So if you have an alternative system, there'll be a notice to title that's associated with your property, and you will have an operation and maintenance contract that's required. And if that contract isn't renewed annually, then you'll get a letter from the health district saying you need to update your contract. My system is an aerobic system, and it needs to be inspected every 6 months. So if you have a standard gravity system, or even if you have a pump to gravity system, that would fall under that 3 years. And the other ones are going to be inspected under the operation and maintenance contract.
We do have some folks that inspect more frequently when they have a heavier load in the house as well. So if they've got more people in the house, they inspect a little more frequently than every 3 years with a gravity system.
Excellent. What's the best way to have our drain field location accurately identified? How far away do heavy things, this person is thinking of a shed, need to be located from the boundary?
Well, this is a great time of year to find your drain field if it's fairly high up in the soil profile, because it's been kind of dry. And so you'll see green striping. If you need help with that, we're happy to come out. You'll have our contact information. It's in the chat, and you'll also get a follow-up email with our contact information. And we're happy to come out to your place and bring your records out and help you read them and help you figure them out. Some of them I know look like they were scratched on the back of a napkin, and we're doing a much better job on that now. Our designers are involved now in getting the as-built drawings to be accurate. And then I see there was another question about a shed. We always recommend at least 10-foot no build zone around a drain field. And really, we recommend about a 30-foot on the downhill side. And the reason for that, if you're compacting it at all, or you're digging in it at all, or if you're driving to it with a vehicle, you really do not want to compact soils on the downhill part of the drain field, because that could cause a conduit to the ground surface.
Okay. Our next question, is a green grass area above the distribution lines indicative of the drain field failing when the rest of the grass area is not green and is dry? It is not soggy or wet, and there's no surface water.
So this is normal. It's definitely something when it's dry outside, you can get a good look at where your drain field legs are, and if that matches your septic system permit and the way it was designed to operate. So some things you might see is green striping if it's an equal distribution drain field. If you have one of those systems that is a step down like mine, you might just see one green stripe or two, because it's going to fill up that first leg and then step down and fill up the next one. So I actually have 4 drain field legs, and you only really ever see 2 stripes in my lawn. And in the center of that green stripe is a dry grass stripe that never gets green, because it's filled in that middle above that drain field leg with a sandier soil. So there's a lot of different things you might see with greening and dry that can be normal, but we're happy to help you compare that to your septic records to see if it looks as it should.
Great. This person asked, this is clarification on an earlier question that we had. I have an alternative septic system. The septic tank is on the front of the house. My backyard has a drain field with 5 pipes. Every spring, I notice the ground develops dips in the ground that we cannot see because of the lawn until we step or trip in them. Are these dips caused by the drain field?
Well, that's a good question, and that's going to take a little investigation, I think. What we need to do is kind of look to see if it's maybe the ground settling. If it's a fairly new system, sometimes the ground does settle. They use a sandy soil to do backfilling. And then sometimes it's critters that might be in there as well. Or it even could be surface water drainage. So we look for those kinds of things. And then we, make sure that there's no possibility of forming a conduit from the ground, the underneath the ground to the ground surface. And that's another thing you can even check with your operation and maintenance person on that too. If you're concerned about it, you can even be there when they do the inspection. You can show those to them. But we're happy to come out as well if you're interested. We can see we can kind of show you where everything's located, and then we can see if it's exactly in those areas or not.
Okay, this person asks, we completed our home's construction January 2021, a new drain field and pressure septic or a system septic, only 6 months old, and we had a clogged filter. 4 people live in home and we don't put any unauthorized items, they put in quotes, down kitchens, sinks, or toilets. Any ideas what could have happened? Is this normal?
It's not really normal. I mean, we typically recommend every year, but it's not hugely abnormal. What I would first think is, could it be possible that something was put down in the system before you moved in? Sometimes when people are cleaning, we've seen some strange things. Cleaning supplies. I remember when the Subaru used to be in Gorsh used to have a drain field, and when they would strip the floors, the cleaners at night, the septic would fail several days later because all those chemicals were poured right in there. So it's possible that something was put in there. What you want to do is kind of keep an eye on that and kind of get an idea of how often that's happening. And it's a pretty easy thing to inspect, and we can give you some tips on how to do that. But basically, it also could mean that you've got that kind of toilet paper that, forms a cloud and does not either settle out into the top of the tank or go to the bottom of the tank. It also could be garbage disposers. Garbage disposers are notorious for that kind of thing because they grind the waste up so fine that it doesn't want to settle out in the tank.
Okay. Sorry, my cat needed to make a cameo. My apologies. Our next question. If a house is only occupied 25% of the time, can you inspect every 12 years?
Theoretically, you could if you have the same load, but let's say you're occupied 25% of the time, but you got a heavy load. You have 3 families there 25% of the time. Then, you would kind of want to look at that load. And, you can always have the tank inspected and not have it pumped, and it is a bit cheaper. But it's really a good idea to get, it's a rule of thumb to start with every 3 years. And then if you don't need to pump that often, then you can certainly, adjust that with your pumper.
Okay, a follow-up on toilet paper questions. In general, is 1 or 2 ply better?
I've not noticed a difference. Frankly, I've tried it with 10 different brands in the past. I used to actually bring a whole bunch of jars and put it in the jars. So no, I really don't notice that. I think what it is some of them, as soon as they get wet, they fall apart. And I don't know what the difference is. It's more of a slurry, I guess, than it is where it's actually woven together. And really the only way I've been able to figure it out is to put it in a jar and look at it.
Okay. Are there special maintenance requirements if a house is on a no bank beach?
Well, you are using that beach, so you definitely want to make sure that your septic is working. A lot of systems were put in long ago before we had development records and before we had septic, septic requirements. In fact, we were finding them even on Long Lake, where there were these old drums just in the ground and sewage went in there. And we found most of those, we think, but some of them are still there. So if you see things that are straight, you really want to maintain those systems religiously, because those are the one, and you want to keep to your water budget, and you want to do all the things we said to really keep them working. And when you do a load of laundry, if I were me, I would walk out on where I think it is and make sure there's nothing coming up. because you just don't want to be living on a beach with sewage. It's really, you can get sick.
Okay. This is, I bet, a common Northwest problem. This person asks, my yard has lots of blackberries that have started to spread to the drain field. Do they have shallow roots, and should we be sure to remove them?
Welcome to the Northwest Club. Please remove them. They are very aggressive rooted plants. And while they may be shallow, they will go into the drain field very quickly. So you need to work to get them out. And I'm in a new home and I'm doing the same thing.
You can really mess up those step down systems where you have the serial distribution on where the connections are.
Yep.
All right, our next question. This person asks, we just planted grass seed around our home and over the septic and drain field. We used a roller pulled by a riding lawnmower to pack the grass seed. Have we just compacted the soil? Is this bad?
One time, probably you're fine. You to grow and plant grass correctly, you need to have some level of rolling. But if you repeat it every day, no, don't do it.
And don't do it when it's wet either. When it's wet, you really don't want to compact soil. So you can really damage soil when it's wet.
Yep.
Next question. Is there a list of what items, products, brand names that we should not put down a sink or toilet or tub? This person is thinking about how to advise renters in an ADU. And this person says, thank you and great information. We thank you for being here too.
I'd say that list is everything except digested food waste and toilet paper. You really do want to minimize cleaning products. You want to minimize fats, oils, and greases. And even if you don't have a septic, you want to minimize those because they plug up pipes and cause backups. But really, anything but digested food waste and toilet paper will stress your system.
Leslie, I've heard the 4 Ps before. Would you recommend those?
Yep.
It's poop, pee, puke, and paper, toilet paper, the 4 Ps.
And really put your toilet paper in there. A lot of people say, oh, I'm protecting my septic system, I'm not putting toilet paper in there. But then if a fly lands on it and lands on the counter, or the cat pulls it out, or it's just not right, or you reach in there a little too deep to throw in the next piece, it's not hygienic for you. You can get sick.
Okay, we're down to 2 questions. This question asks, regarding the toilet paper test, are the results visible right away? And if not, how long should one wait? And to clarify again, it's 3 pieces either rise to the top or sink to the bottom, correct?
I would say 10 minutes tops is all you really need to wait, if that. And it doesn't matter if it goes to the top or the bottom, as long as it stays together. So because the bottom is the sludge and the top is the scum, and only that center clear section is allowed to go out to the drain field. So you just don't want it to be any of those fibers to be in that clear section. You want them to hold together and either float to the top or sink to the bottom, because that's where they'll be pumped out.
Okay, and our last question. This person asks, our neighbor feeds squirrels, and this year we have lots, we got one more question. This year we have lots of squirrels digging and planting. Is that dangerous to the septic?
They're digging pretty shallow and they're putting sunflower seeds down. So you're just going to have a few shallow rooted sunflower seeds growing on your field. So enjoy the sunflowers and pop them up.
Okay, and I think our last question, unless there's any last minute ones that are going to pop in here. This person asks, my system was installed in the 80s. How long can they last?
Well, the average lifespan of a septic system is said to be about 30 years. We do see people get, a lot more than that and a lot less than that, depending on the system and the use. So it is something that you should plan to replace. That's why on the newer systems, there's a reserve area. And Leslie and I like to compare it to home ownership, things like a roof. It's an expense to be planning for in the future, and just keeping up on your maintenance so that it's getting inspected regularly, so you can keep on top of any little issues that may arise as your system is aging.
Okay, that's all of our typed questions. I want to invite, because we have a little bit of time left, I would like to invite our participants to use the raise hand function at the bottom of their screen if you'd like to be unmuted and ask Leslie, Renee, or Paul a question. While we give you guys a moment to find that raise hand function, I will let you know that you will receive 2 follow-up emails from us. One is that resource list that I told you about that should be about 24 hours. You should receive that. You'll also receive in a separate email a link to the recording. So I know some people joined a little bit late, or you may want to go back and listen to a portion of the presentation. You'll be able to do that accessing that link. I also want to let you know that these webinars are new for us for doing these septic education via webinar. Typically, we've done in-person workshops. So because this is such a new effort for us, we would really love it if you would let us know how we did. When you leave the webinar or when I end the webinar, you'll see a link to a survey, and we would love to hear your thoughts on this. In addition, there is an opportunity in that evaluation to leave your email address. If you leave it there, Leslie and Renee will follow up with you and answer more questions, or if you want a site visit, you can do it that way. I'm not seeing anybody raise their hand. So with that,
Yeah.
I'm going to thank all of our attendees. Yeah,
Yeah,
Paul, did you have
Tammy,
something?
there's a question that just came in.
Oh, thank you. I didn't have the question screen. Oh, 2 questions. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah.
Whew, glad somebody was on it. All right. So if we need to replace an old system, does that mean needing to use a reserve field?
Well, the reserve area is just an area that we dedicate for replacement on the modern building site applications. And so you may not have a reserve area dedicated. So what we look for is an area that's suitable for septic. And we almost always find one. We find places to put things. We really work hard with you to make sure that we can find places to put replacement areas. The reason why we require the reserve areas is on some properties, there really isn't a spot and we have to find easements on neighboring properties. And that can get expensive. So that's why we really want to make sure you've got a spot on your property that you can put a replacement area. But again, if you have an older system that does not have a reserve area, we make every effort to work with your designer to find a place to put that.
Excellent. Okay. Well, with that, we've got one last question, but it's not a question, but it just says that the presentation was superb. I think our speakers are superb, so I agree. I appreciate all of your time this evening, and I appreciate everybody who attended tonight for joining us and listening to this. This is